It's been 18 years in the making. Griffon continues to serve as one of the mainlining attractions at Busch Gardens Williamsburg. You might be wondering, why am I doing a review on this near-classic roller coaster? Well, it so happens that I did a review on Griffon over 6 years ago. The video didn't even last 3 minutes, and let's just say, I stepped up the quality somewhat since then. The view is spectacular, as you can see ships out in the harbor. Anyways, Griffon is a very fascinating roller coaster to me, not because it's a one-of-a-kind or a record holder, but how it has a stranglehold on its audience. For some time, I can't put my finger on it. Every reel, short, TikTok that I make on this illustrious roller coaster seems to do very well, sometimes even going viral. I thought it would be fun to revisit this roller coaster and explore why the coaster community has some kind of underlying attraction to it. Before we get to this review, please do me a favor by clicking on that like button. Newcomers to my channel that love roller coasters, be sure to subscribe. It's been a little bit since I conducted my last review, but let me break down my formula. Every roller coaster is broken down into 5 categories: presentation, ride intensity, the fun factor, originality, and ride smoothness. I will also add in a subcategory inside the fun factor where I will talk about ride capacity. At the end, I will provide you the overall technical score and personal score, because sometimes the technical score doesn't accurately interpret how I feel about the coaster. Before we get to that first category, let's talk ride stats. Griffon is a dive coaster model from Bolliger & Mabillard. I'll refer to the manufacturer as B&M for short, which is what most people do anyways. The ride stands 205 feet, features a 90-degree drop, 3,108 feet of track, 71 mph top speed, and 2 inversions. When the ride opened in 2007, it was the tallest, fastest, longest dive coaster on the planet. Presentation. Griffon sits on one of the best pieces of property in the entire park. The view from the top of the lift hill is breathtaking. You can see the James River, the entire park, and the brewery that is adjacent to the park. The bright blue track and white supports look great against any sky. And the simple but elegant yellow and red color scheme of the trains is very pleasing to the eye. Those who are looking for theming will find little to nothing. The queue is designed to blend in with the France area of the park, but beyond that, it's more about natural beauty than theming objects. The splashdown at the end of the ride is also cool to watch. I could just stand around for hours watching this coaster in action, and the pathways that surround this coaster make it easy to do so. If I wanted to be super technical, I could hold back a point because there's not much in theming, but if you ask me, location, color scheme, and foliage make this a solid 10 in this category. Ride intensity. Dive coasters have a very simple formula that you can find on every version. The ride starts off with a steep climb up to its max height of 205 feet. Leave it to B&M to find a way to turn the most simple part of the ride into an intimidating white knuckle climb. The views as you ascend are great and vertigo-inducing. At the top, riders have plenty of time to soak in the view as you slowly roll through a 180-degree turn that leads up to the first drop. The train comes to a stop before slowly being pulled forward. The ride holds the train for a few seconds, allowing you to dangle over the edge of that 90-degree drop before letting you go. This is the best part of the ride. Your adrenaline is pumping, your hands are sweating as you wait for the train to fall forward. This is the moment that catches everyone's eye and is usually a big hit on social media. After the drop, the train immediately climbs into a massive Immelman. This is part of the classic dive coaster layout. Vertical drop followed by Immelman. Every dive coaster since SheiKra has followed this formula. Once you complete the inversion, the ride takes a flying turn to the left that leads right into the mid-course brake run. The coaster will slow down dramatically before taking on a near vertical drop that leads into another Immelman. After the second inversion, the coaster performs a speed hill of sorts, though there is little to no airtime before entering the splashdown. The train does a 270-degree turn that leads right onto the brake run. As I said, it's a simple layout. Some, even including myself, consider a dive coaster a one-trick pony because it's all about that first drop. Thankfully, Griffon still has a couple more good elements, like the second drop and the 2 Immelmans, but the moment that you'll be talking about after getting off the ride will be that first drop. I've never grayed out on Griffon, but I wouldn't say that this is a wimpy coaster. The forces are pretty good, the airtime on the 2 drops are great, but this is nowhere near the intensity you would find on the other coasters in the park, like Pantheon and Alpengeist. I give Griffon a score of 7 for ride intensity. Fun factor. If a roller coaster isn't fun, then what's the point of riding? Thankfully, Griffon has no problems in this department, delivering a fun ride that's captivating to both the coaster community and the general public. The best parts of Griffon is exactly what this coaster focuses on: the drop and inversions. It's simple yet fun. Now, are there some lull moments on the ride? Yes and no. Some will argue that the mid-course brake run will ruin the pacing, but this ride is all about build-up over pacing. It's about setting the mood, and slowly rolling over that second drop is almost as good as the first one. Now, after completing the second inversion, the ending of the ride is mostly fluff, waiting for the coaster to end, which is where I could see its downside. Overall though, the fun is to be had at the beginning of the ride, and there's still enjoyment left to hold you over until you are waiting to exit. Before I provide you my score in this category, let's talk about capacity. Griffon operates with 3 trains that can hold a total of 30 passengers. The trains are 3 cars long, and each car has 10 passengers. These trains are unusually wide, and B&M only use these style of trains 3 times before sticking to the 8 per row in their newer, larger models. Because of the large trains, Griffon is able to cycle through the line pretty quickly. Because of its capacity, I would recommend hitting up another coaster with worse capacity first, like Tempesto or Dark Coaster, before heading on over to Griffon. The fun factor earns a decent score of 8. Originality. It may be a fun ride, but there's nothing really original here. Now, to its credit, Griffon is the first dive coaster to introduce the floorless trains. Many don't remember that SheiKra, which opened first, featured traditional trains before being upgraded to the new standard, which is floorless coasters. In fact, every dive coaster now features floorless trains. The layout, lift, drop, it's all basically copy and paste. Because of its record-breaking stats and newer trains, I'll earn Griffon enough grace to snag a 5 rating in originality. Ride smoothness. A coaster can have an incredible layout, but if it's a rough ride, it really knocks it down in quality. Griffon, even for a coaster over 15 years, is a butter smooth ride. It doesn't matter if you are out on a wing seat or in the center, I find this ride to be glossy smooth. Now, there might be a rattle or two, but it's barely noticeable. In fact, I usually discover the rattle when I watch back my POV. I'm going to overlook this minor flaw and award ride smoothness a perfect 10 score. Alright, the final technical score comes to 8, which I consider to be a good to great score. Griffon is a crowd pleaser plain and simple. With a smooth ride, exciting elements, and intimidating presence, there's so much here to love. Now, I can understand the repetitiveness, especially if you've been on another dive coaster, but I still think there's enough here to enjoy. The view alone is enough to warrant a ride. Also, with its high capacity, Griffon is an easy must ride during each visit to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. My personal score is also going to be an 8. I really have no qualms with Griffon. I enjoy watching this coaster in action. It's a fun ride with high capacity that allows me a quick thrill whenever I'm in a hurry to get on something fast. It's not the best coaster in the park, but a solid top-tier ride. Chances are I'll be hanging out over by Pantheon, but for sure, I'll at least get my rides in on Griffon. Well, that's my review. Tell me what you think of Griffon in the comments. Until next time, this is X Screen Thrills.